Very much in the audience, David.
And 40-year-olds.
Helping people with disabilities to live independent lives is one of the aims of government policy, but how well is that aim being met, particularly when budget cutbacks mean less money for areas like home health packages? Tonight, Ethna O'Brien reports on the remarkable case of a 40-year-old woman in perfect mental health who goes out to work every day, but has been left living in a nursing home for 6 years.
I came to the nursing home and I remember I went to the dining room and no one spoke. No one said a word. They all just stared at me. And I went back to my room and I cried. I said, I don't belong here.
Julia Thurmann is just 40 years old, but she lives in a nursing home. She shouldn't be there, but because the state has failed in its duty of care, she has had to spend 6 years of her life in an institutional setting at a great personal cost to her and financial cost to the state.
There are more people living with more severe and more complex disabilities. That's, a factor of Western world. So we can save people through medical advances, but there aren't necessarily the supports then to help people to actually go back into their communities.
Spinal cord injury is one of the most traumatic events that can happen in somebody's life, and you're really just not given the opportunity to deal with that and deal with the psychological effects of it, because all the time you're trying to battle, and he who shouts loudest sometimes is the way people feel, and not everybody is cut out for that sort of a battle.
Julia was 34 and sharing a house with friends when she contracted acute myelitis, a virus that attacked her brainstem and her spinal cord. She fell into a coma, and when she recovered, she was paralysed from the waist down.
It was devastating. Your life turns around 180 degrees. It really does, yeah. And after a while, you have to relearn so many things that you took for granted. I remember I was in physio one day, and just in this instant it dawned on me that they will prepare me for a life in a wheelchair, and I totally broke down. I didn't want to talk to anybody. Just the realization that this is your life now.
Apart from needing a wheelchair, Julia has now fully recovered. She travels to work 3 days a week at Hertz Car Rental. She only needs help in the morning and evening, but she couldn't get funding for a personal assistant and wheelchair-accessible housing. Ironically, the decision to put her in a home is now much more expensive than any home care package.
I must say, the prospect of living in a nursing home was very scary. I don't know, I couldn't think. But I thought as well, where else will I go?
Julia's case is typical of the problems people experience trying to get appropriate housing and support. Disabled people are forced to go from department to department and fight for limited resources. Not surprisingly, many are losing out and ending up with unsuitable care.
Or you might have secured the housing and you can't get the home care package, or you might have managed to get the home care package from the disability services, but you can't get the housing sorted. And obviously hospitals, acute care facilities are trying to clear their beds to bring in the next group of people, and there's no transitional arrangements for people. So a lot of people end up going either temporarily or permanently into either back to acute care hospitals or into some form of nursing home.
Incredibly, the fallout for Julia is life in a care home, where she is isolated without a normal social life.
Initially, friends came and visited me, and more often. From my point of view, I think it's a bit of a stigma attached being in this kind of surrounding, and it's not the nicest place to meet friends, so I tend to go out and meet them in pubs or go for a coffee, because I know that it's not the right place for me. It's not the right place for someone like me. I should be somewhere else, really.
The most important thing for Julia is that she's been able to keep her job at Hertz Car Rental. Her care home has arranged transport to and from work, but the contrast between her working life and home life is stark.
When I'm in the home, I get physiotherapy, or we go to the gym, but I mostly keep to myself because the activities they offer there are not really geared towards someone like me, which is understandable. I don't expect for them, to offer something for me. So I keep to myself and I do my own thing, really.
Julia has now been living in the nursing home for 6 years. She says that until last October, no caseworker followed up on her care. And now that they are finally looking at other options for her, she has lost the confidence to fight for a better life for herself.
I have a few friends who keep saying, Julia, this is not the right place for you. You shouldn't be there. You shouldn't. And I know this. I do know that I shouldn't be there. I say to myself, okay, this is where I live now. And maybe somewhere along down the road, I will move somewhere else more suitable for me.
Some people who feel that they do need nursing care wouldn't mind going for a certain period of time to get back on their feet or to get maybe while waiting for housing adaptations. In reality, our concern and our feeling about clients like that is they get lost in the system. And during that time, people can lose their sense of independence and lose their confidence that they can actually go back and live.
And in recent years, as cuts to housing and disability services take hold, more people are being pushed towards institutional care. Housing adaptation grants have been cut severely over the last 3 years. In 2011, the budget was €78.5 million, down to just €48 million for 2014. And for many, the only form of funding available is the Fair Deal scheme, set up to fund nursing home care for the elderly. Social workers say that Fair Deal is being used more and more to fund nursing home care for disabled young people.
I don't think anyone would have envisaged how much young people with disability have become dependent on that financial, or how much the disability service and the hospital services have become dependent on Fair Deal scheme to actually manage to find somewhere for people to live. There's a lot of issues with it. In the sense of people feeling that they shouldn't be asked to fill out means tested when it's your 30-year-old husband or your 24-year-old daughter.
According to the HSC, a sum of €23 million will be allocated from the Fair Deal scheme to enhance home care supports, of which €10 million will go to intensive home care packages, €10 million to maintain short stay beds and €3 million for community beds. And last year, Housing Minister Jan O'Sullivan announced funding of €1 million to source appropriate accommodation in the community for people with a disability, as well as an extra €10 million to provide homes for the disabled. But campaigners say so much more is needed.
Report after government report acknowledges that community-based support is best for people with a disability. But Ireland has yet to ratify Article 19 of the UN Convention on Disability, which recognises the legal rights of all persons with a disability to live in the community. And campaigners say that in Ireland, this ideal is further away than ever.
Over the years, there's been many reports on housing strategies and moving forward for people with disabilities. And all of them seem to be just sitting on shelves at the moment. There's always going to be talk about it, but there doesn't seem to be any real effort or real positive thinking going into it. And so with less money in the country, I'm very pessimistic about any changes being made.
Since we filmed with Julia, she has spoken with a social worker and is being assessed for alternative housing. In the meantime, for this young woman, this is her reality.
You have to close your eyes and ears and nose towards everything that goes on in there, to keep sane and to keep normal. If a person in the next room to you dying just becomes a normal thing. I know it sounds very bad, but in a way it does, because you have to get on with things. That's my life. I know it sounds bad, but that's my life. That's where I live.
Ethna O'Brien reporting. I'm joined now by Susie Byrne, who's a disability rights activist. Susie, a lot of people looking at that report, looking at Julia's story, will just be absolutely shocked at what has happened to her over the past 6 years. But is her case unusual?
Not really. I think it's probably unusual that she has managed to keep her job. That's right. Unusual. That shocked me. That somebody, in a nursing home for 6 years, and she's managed to stay working. We don't know how many younger people there are in nursing homes, but there are many. in nursing homes, paid for by the state, to live in nursing homes where they're often 40 years younger than anyone else, where they don't leave their bedroom because they're afraid to join in activities and they know nobody else, where they might get out to a day centre once a week, if they're lucky, but where the person paying the bill rarely checks on them to see how they are. And you know, Ireland wouldn't be able to ratify the UN Convention. We can't ratify the UN Convention at the moment, but we'd be in breach of it because people like Julia don't have a choice in where to live. We don't do an assessment of need. We have no rights-based legislation that looks into Julia and all the other people with disabilities wherever they're living and what needs to be done to support them.
But even, I mean, as Athna was pointing out, even from the point of view of the state, it's more expensive to keep Julia in a nursing home than it would be to provide the home care package.
Absolutely. She wouldn't need, because she's in work, she would need very little hours of support each week, and she should be able to choose who works with her, tell them when she wants them to be there in the morning and the evening for her. And if she needs assistance in the activities of daily living, that's what she should be doing. She shouldn't be living somewhere where there are staff in uniforms, where it's medicalised. She has no medical need. There are many people, young people with disabilities, who have no medical need, who are in nursing homes. And there are others who do have medical needs, but those needs could be catered for in the community very easily.
Just very briefly, how do we resolve situations like this?
We bring in rights-based legislation. We assess everybody with a disability and their needs, and we work with them on a one-to-one basis to see how those needs could be met. At the moment, people like Julia are seen as numbers and beds. They're not seen as people with needs who need to be met. They're not seen as people with rights in any way at all.
OK, well, just a couple of quick comments. Fergal O'Gora, that poor woman's ordeal is absolutely ridiculous, a shameless failure. Gabrielle Monaghan, my late 93-year-old grandfather wouldn't give up his independence to live in a nursing home, never mind a 40-year-old. And then somebody else, 1 million set aside for housing disabled. That's maybe 10 lucky people. Insulting, really. We have to leave it there. But Susie Byrne, thank you indeed for joining us. Now, we'll take a quick break. We'll be back with the flooding in Cork and the latest on the investigation into the deaths of babies at the Midlands Regional Hospital. Join us then.
To my right was insane.
What? Lady Hannon, yeah. Get her desk, okay. Check. Yes, she's here.
Where is it and which is my camera?
There.
Speak to some members of the health committee. This is short extra from what they had to say.